Hi guys, I'm Chris from Charged.Services, premier supplier and installer of Remootio 3s in the UK. We're well known for giving our customer service to not only our own customers, but we sell the Remootio products on Amazon, probably the largest supplier and installer here in the UK of Remootio. We sell over 1,000 units a year now. We're also probably the only stockist who stocks the additional accessories like the Remootio OC1 camera. We've also we have the Remootio button and a number of other accessories. We also supply our own range of products in the Charged line, which consist of our photocell sensors, our keypad and remote controls. So what I can going to show you today is really the video you need to watch before you go and buy a Remootio 3. So this will show you exactly how they work, how they're fitted to anything. You don't necessarily need the instructions for your specific device. On our website we have the full compatibility checker, so you can search with the manufacturer, make and model of your automation that you're trying to control with Remootio, and it will show you the wiring diagrams. But now I'm going to run you through the diagram that comes in the box and how that relates to virtually any kind of automation. So we've also got the Remootio push button. I'm going to show you how this works. This kind of comes up, we don't sell many of these, and I think there's probably an element of confusion when trying to install them, exactly how they work and exactly what they do. Because when you're using the button, I can show you here, stainless steel buttons, beautiful little finish, but it is a press and hold button in order to trigger the doorbell control within the Remootio app. But what we are going to show you is how to wire it, how to use it, and also how to implement other devices into your Remootio for security. So one of the biggest things that we see when we go to gates in the UK is generally people like to use free exit loops and things like that, where they get a loop or they get an additional photocell which allows you to trigger the exit of the gate. And unfortunately, from a security point of view, that makes it completely unsafe because anybody could leave the property at any time. So what I'm going to show you in the video is how to wire in your exit buttons or your doorbell buttons, as well as your exit control loops, into your Remootio, and how you can secure your property with that. And that's probably the most important thing that we do differently than pretty much every other installer of these all over the country. Right, so the first thing I'm going to show you with this installation video is we're not going to use any instructions. We're just going to do a little bit of assessment about what we've got. And I'm going to show you a couple of different control boards and just basically give you a bit of a brief of what you want to check first before you even go ordering your Remootio. Because one of the big things that we get a lot of feedback where people come back to say, oh, Remootio, it's just not compatible. It doesn't work with my gate opener or my garage door opener. And the thing is, that is nonsense, because at the end of the day, all of these control panels, all they do is connect the two pins which allow you to basically open and close a switch. So think of it like a light switch. All Remootio is doing is the physical switch action for you, and it doesn't matter whichever way you do it, the Remootio will be compatible with what you want to do. All right, so first things first, this particular panel that we're looking at behind us is a Roger Edge 1 panel. This is just something that had spare. I can have a look. We've got a Kame panel which I'm going to show you next, and the things that we're going to check for. All right, so first things first, on this panel, what we want to do is basically go and find the manual for the control panel that you've got, and you want to have a look if it's already got some outputs for photocells power. So in this instance, we know these are clearly labeled on these panels, they're not numbers, but this shows that it's got a 24 volt panel. And what we're going to do is we're going to test that now, and we can see, let's actually put a termination in, that we've got a non-regulated 24 volt output, which is giving sort of roughly sort of 29 to 30 volts DC output. So we can tell here that it's AC or DC. We can check it. There we go. Let's see what we get in. So it's definitely a DC output from here. But then that's our voltage output, and that's where we're going to connect the two pins from our power lead. I can show you what we do with that. So if you have a USB lead in the packaging, you can either plug this directly into a USB for power, or you can feed it from these terminals within the board. So if I show you with what we have right now, we've got USB end on one side and a DC jack on the other. We can bring the app to have a USB port right next to us, so we can plug straight into a USB, and we can plug in our Remootio 3, and you can see that's powered on this device already. Okay, and that's how we would get set up. So if you want to use the power separately, you can simply do so, plug that into the USB, or I'm going to show you what we can do, which is we simply take the power lead, right, and in this instance I'm going to cut this off. I've got plenty of spares, and when we cut that off, you're going to see inside, you can see that from here, there's only 2 cores inside it. So if we split that cable open, inside we're going to expose the red and black cable, and so now you have a DC jack end along with just a red and black internal cores. And now we can strip these out, we can connect these to the 24 volt and common on the board, and now this will supply our Remootio power supply. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to avoid any cuts in this video and try and make it for you as live as possible, so you can see genuinely how easy it is to actually install. So in this instance, I'm going to do it on this board now. So I've got it here ready. It's probably not going to be the cleanest of installations, but what we're going to do is we're going to take the terminals out of the board, and I'm going to quickly screw in the 24 volt and common in these terminals here. And now we've got a feed for our Remootio. So just remember as well, obviously in your install, if you're using a gate motor, chances are that 24 volt terminal is already going to be used. It's going to have multiple things plugged into it, things like photocells and stuff. They are low current devices, so you are generally okay to use quite a few devices off of your control board. But just bear in mind that in this instance, this is a 500 milliamp 24 volt supply, so you can't use too much on it, but a Remootio really doesn't use a lot of power at all. So as you can see, look, now that Remootio is powered straight from the control board on the gate, right? And at the moment we can see on the gate, right, I'm just going to give this a little reprogram, which I'm just going to take out. I didn't realise I hadn't done that. This has currently got some bits programmed into it already. Let's just see if we can quickly do that. Try and keep these in without the edit. We want stripped and put to nothing. There we go. Right, so now we're back to 0 0, so no faults and anything to test. So what we now want to do is on your gate board, and you could now do this live if you wanted to, in terms of so long as you know what you're doing and you've read your manual, all you really want to do is find the 2 terminals that either open and close the gate or trigger the gate for like open, start, stop and close command. So in this instance, I mean, I know these panels inside and out, so what you're looking at in front of you is you're going to have an AP command for opening the gate, and you're going to have the CH command for closing the gate, or you can use the PP or the steps. So even if you was on a garage door motor or anything else that was going to be any different, what you could now do is simply test between these 2 pins. What I've got already is you could use one piece of wire. I've just got a control wire, twisted the ends together, and basically all we're looking for is a common between the 2 pins. So give an example, you can see with the board, obviously there's no motors connected, but testing it, we've now got the AP command, which shows that that is the open command, and then we want to see the close command. So now you've got common and CH, common and open, or we could do for PP for step command, pedestrian open, exactly, and that triggers your your commands that you need on your gate. So if you was doing this by hand before you did anything, if it was a garage door, you'd probably look for the U, the up and the down commands. What I'm going to do is, I'm just, for the sake of it now, I'm just going to show you what it would look like on a garage door controller, just so you can see. So I'm going to pause this video now and jump to that. So this little box of tricks up here, and this is quite complicated. We've got an Ajax relay, we've got an Ajax door sensor, and we've got a Remootio that are all outputting into this control panel. So what we're trying to see down here in the corner, so get some lighting back on in here, is on the control panel, you've got your terminals on the left hand side. This particular door is a, what's it, TV NRG, you can see on the label up here. And basically all we do is we test out these individual panels which have got the commands on it. On the front of the board, I can't show you from this angle, but you basically have you've got a couple of markings on it. One says U, the other says D, the other says S, and then the other says G. And so what that is you've got an up, a down, a stop and a ground terminal. And if you short out those pins, you will trigger your garage door in the up or down mode, however it needs to be done. So we're back to the Roger panel now, and what I'm going to show you from here is exactly how we can wire this in to your Remootio. So what I like to do is I just take the one cable that we get in the box, I strip out both ends of it, so I've got two lengths to do what I need it to do, and then I just cut it to size exactly how you need it. Pretty careful to remember, just making sure obviously that you're safe with your electrics. This little setup that I have here is fed from the mains over here on the side. All of the board is 24 volts, so we're protected in terms of high voltage connections, but obviously you do need to take into account, if you short out your 24 volt to common supplies, you probably blow one of the fuses on your board, which up here you've got a little 4 and a 3 amp fuse. So that can also happen sometimes with your Remootio. If you overpower it, if you put like if you connect it to the 240 volts for instance, you will blow up the fuse and stuff inside the Remootio, which will void your warranty. And I'm going to show you the fuses inside. But so what I've done now, I've stripped two long ends. I'm going to take my signal cable down just so I've got them roughly the same length. I'm going to chop them in half, and then I'm going to strip them 2 bits of cable down. I'm deliberately doing this. I don't normally use these strippers, but I just want to use like the basic tools that you're probably going to have at home in order to do them. So you know you haven't got to be a rocket scientist in order to get one of these done. And most installations of Remootio, if you're on your own and you're not trying to talk everyone through it, it should probably take you no more than about 15 minutes overall. So and I'd say that's providing you know what the panel is you're working on, or you've read the instructions, and you should be pretty good to go. So I'm just getting this one trimmed up. That's a nice one done. And then I'm going to load up the Remootio app separately on my iPad so I can show you them both together. So what I'm going to do now is terminate these ends into the terminals we just checked. So we want to have one cable for the open, one cable for the close. Disconnect them from the panel. So we use the black cables for the commons, and we're going to take both cables, we're going to put them both into the same common terminal. On your own panels, if you've got, as probably a really good example, if you've got a keypad or something like that wired up into your gate system already, you will be wanting to probably connect the Remootio into the same terminals as what your gate keypad and everything is terminated into as well. So you might find a little bit of congestion. What you can do is you can use something like a Wago connector to connect up to your inputs and outputs. I try to avoid it where possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. The panel terminals are usually pretty small. They're not designed to have loads of stuff shoved into them, and obviously people have just got more demanding over time and want more accessories. So like here we go. Now we've got 2 sets of connections in these terminals. You've got one you can see going into the AP opening and one that's going into the closing. 2 separate cables sharing a common, and then we're going to plug them into the board once we connect up to our Remootio. So we've got the other ends opened. I'm going to strip these down short, ready to fit straight into the Remootio. That's just a cable tester, and I'm going to show you how we can wire in some of the other inputs to a Remootio as well, and I'm going to use one of these photocells as an example for that. So what we can do, now I've got the ends done, I'm going to get this Remootio open. Just make sure I've got the ends of the cables trimmed down nicely so you don't get no overlapping. I'm just going to make sure, like you can see on there, we have them nice and short because the Remootio doesn't have a lot of space in its control panel. So what we're going to do, we can unplug this. I'd recommend it's probably something you do if you're not comfortable with working with electric so much, especially if it's the first time you've ever used your Remootio. But we'll get that open, and we're now going to show you the inside of the Remootio panel. So look, we have got the output terminals. Try and bring that up close to the camera so you can see exactly what you're looking at. So on the left hand side you've got output 1, then you've got output 2, and then you've got input 1 and input 2. So these are your command terminals. This is what we're wiring into your gate panel, and the inputs are what we're going to use for either the Remootio sensor, which this little one comes in the pack. This is simply just a magnetic like micro switch, so any micro switch or garage door shutter would work. So even if you had an alarm contact, your regular house alarm contact or an external door contact, you might get the big metal magnets. They're literally just going to use 2 of the wires output from even the big garage door shutters, and that can go straight in place of this. So you don't need to use this one, but this is what comes with. It's pretty universal. It can work on any door, and it works up to about 1 inch from the magnet. So you get the magnet side, and then you get that side, and I'll show you how that works on the multimeter in a minute. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to wire in the 2 outputs that we've just done. And we're going to take these terminals now. We've got the open cable, which is this one. We're going to wire that into output 1, and your terminals factory should all be closed and tightened, so you'll have to open them all up first. This is actually a return Remootio. Funnily enough, this is a Remootio that was returned for being incompatible with the client's control panel. So this is what they said when they sent it back on Amazon, but chances are they either didn't read the manual, didn't check on anything online, and hadn't come to see one of our videos, because they would have learned how to install this completely from scratch with no problems. So here is input number 1. Simple as, it's that one done. And what I said, make sure is you trim them short so you don't get the exposure, so the coppers can't touch together and short out, because that will give you a problem, and that could be causing you issues with it, say not responding, or you think that the Remootio is not working, but actually it's your terminations where the cables are rubbing together. So like, see how that's gone in, you get the wires completely covered. I know I haven't done that on the first pin, but if I was being more careful, make sure we got that in there. So these are now in. Pin's actually damaged, so this is a return unit. It's actually been over tightened, so this pin on the end, it's tight enough, but the actual screw is damaged on that terminal, so this will be something we'll have to take off and replace before we fit it ourselves. And generally speaking, what we do with all of our returns, we actually go and use them on our own installation, so because we know that we don't have any problems with them, so that's what we do with it. Right, so look, now we've got our terminals, we've got our power supply, we know we're on, we know we can use this now, and we can then basically set this Remootio up. Right, so that's us working on this side. That's our control panel all set up. I'm just going to leave that sitting here so we can see it. For the sake of it, I'm going to just put the status terminal in so we can give you a quick demo of that as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take input number 1. Let's quickly get this screwed in there. And I can see from this one that's been returned, it's definitely been installed, and they've obviously decided for whatever reason that they couldn't use it, but some of the terminals are unscrewed, some of them are screwed in. This is our little screw terminal with a problem. Get it to buy, there we go. Right, so I might have to play that one a little bit loose, but don't worry about it. Right, so now we've got an input and output. Well, we've got 2 outputs, an open and a close, and we've got our input magnet put in there as well. So I'm going to keep that there to one side, and I'll show you what's going to happen next. So I'm just going to have a little shuffle about, get my iPad out so I can show you how it is. Right, so a couple of minor little interruptions, but what we've now got, you wouldn't normally do this on an iPad, but just for the sake of using all of it together. So we've got our Remootio now connected. We've we've used the 2 outputs, one for open, one for closed, and we've connected the magnetic sensor so we can now control the input, right? So what we're going to do on this, we're going to go set up a new device, and we're going to scan for Remootios, and remember that this is going to set up in Bluetooth. So I'm just going to keep it as Remootio device, but what I tell you, actually we're going to change it because we want to be able to show you how to name it and set it up for something like Alexa, etc. So basically, if you set the name of the device now to what you want, when you go and add the Remootio to either Alexa or HomeKit, it will then be able to be used via voice control. So when I normally set these up on my iPad or on my phone, I've got tons and tons and tons of people's gates on there that we've set up keys for. So what we have on here is that we just set it up as your name. So if you want it to be driveway gates, or you want it to be gates or garage door, whatever you want to save it to, this is going to be your voice command name, so it's easy to get it right now. So look, first thing we're doing, we're now connecting via Bluetooth from the device that you're pairing it straight to the device. It's going to set up the device and it's going to share its keys. You can now see it saying receive keys. It's receiving keys from the device to this device. And now you can finalize your setup. If you do want to buy additional keys, if you're using this for a commercial purpose, then you can apply for more keys. I believe you get 25 as standard or 20 as standard, and then you can get on more from there. So what we're going to do, I'm going to change this to allow while using app. This is giving you your Remootio location. If you want to use geofencing, you need to go into the settings of your iOS device or Android device, and you need to allow it location all of the time. One big thing that does come up, we get questions about geofencing all of the time. If you're using geofencing on an Android phone and you have any form of power saving devices or power saving software, it will disable the precise location of the app in the background. Even if you have set it to allow it to work, the power saving app will always override the settings that you have given it on the iOS. So if you've told it that you can use precise location, but you are using some form of power saving, it will disable it in the background, and therefore your geofencing doesn't work. So we do find it does just generally work better on iOS, but everyone has a choice. Okay, so first thing it's going to show you at the top is about the connectivity, whether it be Bluetooth, Wi-Fi or internet. I'm going to just set this up currently on Bluetooth, and I'll explain some of the other bits about Wi-Fi later. In this example, we're going to set it up as a gate opener. With a gate opener, it will not let you set up Apple HomeKit. So even if you have a set of gates, but you want to use Apple HomeKit instead of using Alexa, you can choose to set it up as a garage door and then just make sure it's called gates, and then you'll be able to set it up later. So look, now simply we've got our settings. We want to set up our output control. So if you only have a pulse command, you'll only be using either one of these options, which is your there you go, so the bottom option. If you wired in your control to just be a start stop, so on the Roger control board, if we was using a PP terminal or a garage door that only had a start stop command, you would set it up as option number 6, which is gate impulse, output 1 gate impulse control, and output 2 is disabled. Or if you wired it into output 2, you can use the one which is option number 1, which is output 1 is disabled and output 2 is the gate impulse control. So in our instance, with most of the Roger motors, and especially the installers that buy from us that are all pretty much installed in Roger, we want to use the 4th option, which is output 1 to open and output 2 to close. Same changes on there. Yeah, so we're going to use output 1 to open, output 2 to close. You could use it on any of the pulse terminals, or you could set it up so you had output 1 and output 2 as gate impulse controls, and then you could set up using maybe an open and a pedestrian if you want to use the 2 options. So say like you might want to open a pedestrian gate. You might have a main gate and a pedestrian gate. You want to use the same Remootio to control 2 entrances, and then you can just do pulse 1 and 2. In an instance, we've got an installer that's got 2 garage doors and only 1 Remootio, so we use the 2 pulse controls, and the top one pulses the left hand door, the right one pulses the other, so you have choices. Okay, so we're going to save them changes here. That's the first one done, and going to come out of there. We're also then going to go and set up the inputs as well. So manual control button and gate status. So these are the ones that I want to talk to you about really. So gate status sensor, we're going to enable that. We're going to enable it on 1, and dependent on whether it's open or closed. So you can use the magnet attached to a gate either in the fully open or fully closed position, and basically what you can do is you can have it when the magnet is closed, it's going to give you the right information. It's going to give you that the gate is shut, or you can have it when it fully opens, it tells you that it's open. But obviously from a security point of view, we like to have it so it tells us that it's shut. So in this instance, we're going to leave it like that, and we're going to go back to the home. So now you can see that our gate status is open. I'm going to present the magnet to it, and you can see that it's now changed to closed. So open, closed, and you can see how simple that was. That was our wiring on here. And now we're just going to take a look at the Roger control board, because I'm going to press the test button and we're going to click the open, and you can see now the open command is now engaged, and that will release after a period of time like now, and we'll do the close control as well, and you can see now the CH command has come up on the top of the control panel. So that is all you need to do on the instance of most gates. So that Remootio effectively is set up and working completely in around 15 minutes, including talking you through it. So I can show you how to do that on a garage door. I'm going to get out one of the Kame motors in a second, and we're going to do the next part of this video. And I'm also now going to show you how to connect up a Remootio camera, how we're going to add that to the system, and I'm going to show you about using an input from another device. In this instance, I'm going to power this sensor, and we're going to use the sensor to wire into, when we go down here, the manual control button section. So if we enable manual control button, we're going to set it on terminal 2, and we're going to set up notify me when it's pushed, and we're also going to set up the internet Wi-Fi. One thing I'm going to show you now, just for the sake of putting it on the video, if you are using any Wi-Fi mesh devices in your property, and also if you're using BT or Sky, I'm not going to go through the whole process. However, there is a problem with parental controls on Sky broadband, BT broadband, and Virgin Media, and any of the others that is basically sub-sell any of the services. So there is a link underneath this video. Take time to have a look at that, because that will affect your ability to use the Easy Connect service. So on this, I'm going to join it to the Wi-Fi. I'm just going to pause the video while I scan for the Wi-Fi and then enter the password for it. There we go. So just at the point now, we're going to join onto the Wi-Fi that's available, and we've connected up with the password. What I wanted to show you though is that when you request enable the internet, it will enable something called Easy Connect, which will basically connect to the servers with Remootio. We are currently working on a fix and basically unblocking the domains that are used to make sure that it will work for you in the future. But so now internet setup was successful. We can now use the other functions. So we can use the internet service or the Wi-Fi service in order to speak to the devices locally on the Wi-Fi. And you can now control your gate, as again, you can see in the background, the click. That's worked now via Wi-Fi, and I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to do the close. You can see that the terminal came on. Do the same thing again. The motor's been triggered, so that now works via internet as well as Bluetooth. Right, so now we're sort of advancing the installations more, so we might lose a few people here. This is going to get a little bit more complex in terms of installations. If you followed the video so far, what we've done is we've installed the Remootio. We've used the two inputs, the open and close command. We've used the magnetic sensor to connect up onto the app, where you can see that the gate is either showing open like that or closed when the magnets are connected, so we know that we're all working well. What we're now going to introduce is the equivalent of a remote button. So what we've got now is, in this instance, this is the push and hold button from Remootio. I'm going to actually show you a little separate video with that, with it wired in. I might snip it into this video because it will directly wire into the place of this little sensor here. This little gadget, which is really good, these are part of the Charged range, and what we have is we've got our own range of photocells, which do battery and mains powered. But we also do, these are called the FT100, which is the standard photocell model. This right here is called a TOF100, and you might see it's got a really different design, where it's basically got two laser viewers, and they work a bit like a laser distance measurer, and it's called a time of flight. So when I put my hand in front of the sensor that's programmed to be very small, you will hear the click, and that's currently triggering the panel. And what you can see up here, it says Gates was operated with a manual control button. So what we've done here is we've took the output from this photocell. This is to replicate whether you had a ground induction loop, and you take the two output cables from the ground induction loop that are currently triggering the gate, and instead of putting them into the trigger terminals that you've just wired in your Remootio to, you're going to take the output of them and you're going to wire it into the manual control button terminal on the Remootio. And so what we do on here, on the Remootio settings, we're going to scroll down in the setup to where it says manual control button. We're going to choose the manual control button. We're going to enable it on, in this case, input 2, and we're going to notify if pushed. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this function here that says limit the time. So let me just move you over so you can see this a little bit better. you have got the option to set weekly returning intervals, which will basically allow you to disable the access. So for instance, if you are using a ground induction loop, you could set this that this only works from let's just say we're going to do it from 7 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to restrict it until for instance, now the time is 5:55. So tell you what we're going to do. We're going to change this time, so we are restricted from 5:30. So now, by disabling this, we've now stopped the trigger from working at this precise time. So what we want to see now, so we can get back to our position, is right now the manual control button has been active. You've just seen it activate a minute ago, and now if I put my hand in front of it, we're triggering, but you can see the switch going, but the motor's not being triggered, and that's because we've now disabled it with our timer. So when I put in front of it, you would expect it to work. All right, if I now go back into the manual control button option, we can now go manual control. Let's just say let's just change the time schedule, and we're now going to make it a recurring interval. We're going to make it valid until 17:35. And while we're chatting in this video, save them changes. So aren't we going to get there? Hold on. So we want it to work from there we go. We're going to make it work from 7:34, and we're going to stop it at 7:37. That should give us enough time to run through these bits on the video. So now I'm going to go back to the main screen. There you go. You can see the gate's now triggered. We've had the update saying the gate's been operated from the manual control button. So that is how you would wire in either a photocell in a normally open format. So that will basically let you have your exit trigger. So if you're using that for normal purposes, you can drive up over your exit loop during the day. Within working hours, you can have free access on the site. And then outside of hours, you can disable that, completely securing the gate system. So nothing unlocks, nothing will open, nothing will go on from there. Right? Your options though are with the button. All you've got here on the bottom of the button is you've got the USB power. Again, you can strip that out to power it, but this does require a low power source. I'll confirm that in the other video. And then your yellow terminals on this here, they would be what you're going to wire up into your input terminals. So we could wire them in parallel, so you can have multiple things triggering. You could have a button triggering into the same connection where your loop is, so you could have multiple objects going into the same thing. So we're still working now, just looking at the time frame. You can see we've had a manual button introduced. Just going to wait for that to trigger the next minute, and I'll show you it now not working. And here we go, the minute has now triggered, so we're now 17:37. So without doing anything, our schedule's now changed. We can trigger the button as much as we want, but it no longer operates the gate. And that is how you can wire any device into your Remootio that is effectively a free exit, and that enables you to make it a secure exit in like the set time fields. It also then allows your customer or yourself, if you're fitting this for yourself, it allows you to then manage those schedules from within. So for the next stage of our video, I'm going to show you now how we're going to wire up this Kame panel. I'm not actually sure what device this was from, but this is a Kame ZA3P panel. I don't think this is a particular popular one. I believe this is what's used for one of the sliding gates. So it's actually this one I think has come from an electric bollard set. So this is what we've got, but basically the Kame terminals are all of the same. You're going to have a power terminal, like a 24-volt output. We're going to have, I believe, the 3 and the 3P terminals are what open the gate and do the triggering. And we're going to wire them back to the common terminal. So looking at what I can see here, I'm guessing that the 2 terminal is the common. The 3 and the 3P are the open. So I believe the 3 is the open command and the 3P is the pulse command. I'm going to get the manual and I'm going to show you how to step by step go through it, find out the bits you need to connect it to, and how to connect your Remootio that we just set up. Right, so first thing that we've done is we've gone to Google, we've searched for a Kame ZA3P manual, and so without using our website and the compatibility checker, this is how I'm going to show you what you can do with your own board. So straight away, we come into the electrical connections in the manual, and it shows you terminals for powering 24-volt AC accessories. So on the last panel, we had a DC supply, and we've got AC supplies, DC supplies. Any supply works with a Remootio, so AC or DC is not a problem. A lot of these panels, so I think the Roger Edge panel is actually an AC output, but doesn't make a lot of difference in or there. Basically all of our accessories work generically for AC and DC. The only real thing is to make sure that you've got polarity specific if you're using a DC supply. So in this instance, 11 looks like your common terminal and 10 looks like your 24-volt live terminal. So that's your inputs there. We then want to have a look down on the menu for the opening commands. So prime example in this menu, it's called command and control devices. So we can see in this menu it says stop button, so normally closed, so that's between terminals 1 and 2, so we don't want to use that. And we really want to be doing a normally open button, so this one here, key switch selector, and or opening button, normally open contact for the command of the gate. So it says down here what we want to do. And for commanding the opening and closing of the gate by pressing the button or turning the selector key, the gate inverts its movement or stops depending on the selection made on the dip switches. See dip switches 2 and 3. But so if we look at the wiring diagram here, you can see that the push buttons and the keys, they wire to a common 2. Yeah, so 2 is the common terminal, and then 3, when you look at it here, is, or 3P, is the opening button. And what goes into 3, oh look, that can be all of them, so that's all in wiring. 3 or 3P are your triggers. So what you would do in, let's just say, your normal instance that you're not 100% sure what 3 or 3P is programmed to, you can now short a wire in the panel. And if I just showed you like some of these loops that are in here, you could use a wire loop and just go between 2 and then 3, and then make sure that if that does the command that you need, or 2 and then 3P to make sure that that does the command you need. And that is how simple it is when you wire this in. So here we are on the Kame panel. This Remootio is now up, live and working, and then we've basically got the command from the the power from the 10 and 11 terminal, and then the command cables going into 2 and 3, and then that's what basically gives us our control over the gate motor. So that's how simple it fits to a Kame panel. This is pretty much the same with all of the Kames, whether it be a sliding gate, swing gate, ZA4, the ZA3 panel, and I believe it's the ZX panels on the sliding gate motors as well. So pretty much the same thing. It's really as simple on every device, whether it be gate motors, garage door openers. You just need 24-volt or 12-volt outputs from the board to power it, and then you just need to find your common terminal and your trigger terminals, whether that be up, down, open, close. All you're going to need to do is wire into each relay, one or the other, and then use the output configuration section. So everyone, thanks for watching this Remootio technical video. I hope that's really helped you out, either make your decision that buying a Remootio 3 is going to work for what you need it to do. One thing I can always say is you feel free to email us at info@Charged.Services. We'll always help you out wherever you've bought your Remootio from, with a little bit of advice in terms of getting it wired in correctly. But one thing I can say is we now have brought out our own range of products to go with Remootio. So our sensors, our keypads, our push to exit buttons, etc., are all available from the Charged store. Also available from our Amazon e-store as well, so you can buy them in conjunction with your Remootio from us. All of your support, all of our products will come with the support from us. So if you need help wiring it in, feel free. You can give us a call, send us an email. You'll get technical support. We've got a number of videos coming onto YouTube as well to run you through a few of the problems that people are coming in with installing Remootios. It's generally quite simple, but often either the quality of the gate installation or garage door installation that you've had can make it seem a little bit more complex than it really is. Appreciating the examples that I've shown you today in the video, we've got no other devices wired into these control panels. So if you come and look at a gate that might have 2 or 3 photocells, a ground exit loop, a keypad, an intercom as well, you may be looking at a wealth of wires in there and 4 or 5 sets of wires going into that control panel and them trigger terminals, which can really be off-putting. But all you've got to remember is that in reality, the Remootio is doing the simple job of a switch, connecting the 2 terminals together, and that is all it is doing. It will either do it for a momentary pulse, or you can hold it on for as long as you want. And one of the videos we're going to show you is about the features that are on Remootio that allow you to hold gates open, hold garage doors open on panels that accept held down commands. These are really good, really helpful, and what you can find is your Remootio can really do a lot of the features that potentially you would have to spend a lot of money when it comes to fitting an intercom. So we find we get a couple of customers will be able to buy and get away with something like a Ring doorbell on their gate on the basis that they have a Remootio in order to be able to remote trigger it, hold it open, and do all of the features that a much more expensive intercom system would be required in order to do. So if you compare this, if you've already got an intercom, an alarm system, and all of the integrations, you might be thinking, wow, I've already spent £1,000, £1,500 already. Do I need a Remootio? Well, probably not. But if you've just got a basic set of electric gates and you're using a remote fob, in one of our other videos, we're going to show you the difference with our remote fobs and why we use Remootios instead of remote fobs, and that's due to signal security. But you can make your electric gates much more secure by removing the remote fobs and adding a Remootio, and you can get the features of £1,000 intercom by only spending £120, £130 on a Remootio, which is a huge saving. And it's much more user-friendly, gives you a much better quality app, and you've got much more reliability on what it's going to do. And you've also seen many app updates come with Remootio, adding more and more features that are available to it, and just sort of making the whole experience that little bit better for people. So the best product for controlling a electric gate or garage door, anything in between, is 100% the Remootio 3.